Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third thematic discussion of our event, that is Jakarta Investment Forum 2023. We'd like to announce to you that we will start the thematic discussion in 5 minutes. Thank you. Well, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I hope everyone's doing well. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our third thematic discussion, and that is on highlighting creating green investment opportunities and potential here in Jakarta. And that is our third thematic discussion of the Jakarta Investment Forum 2023. Allow me to introduce myself. So my name is Amelia Yahya, and I'm so incredibly honored, so very happy to be here, to be a part of this incredible day, especially with everyone here, with the great crowd of your caliber. Terima kasih Bapak Ibu sekalian atas kehadiran dan juga partisipasinya, tentunya dalam acara yang sangat bermanfaat ini. So, ladies and gentlemen, to start our beautiful and exciting thematics discussion, allow me to first extend our warmest welcome to the head of Bank Indonesia DKI Jakarta Representative Office. Let us all say hello to Mrs. Arliana Abu Bakar. Ibu, selamat datang. Mari kita beri tepuk tangan yang meriah. We're so honored to be a part of this, Ibu. Thank you very much. And next, ladies and gentlemen, would also like to say hello to the Director of Water Pollution Control of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. Let us give a big round of applause for Ibu Neti Widayati. And next, let us also say hello to the investment executive of the British International Investment. Let us all say hello and give a big round of applause for Mr. Myozin. Welcome, Mr. Myozin. We would also like to welcome the Executive Director of Kahati. Let us give a big hand for Mr. Ricky Frindos. And of course, we'd also like to say welcome to a very inspiring woman. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the initiator of Duanyam. Let's say hello to Mrs. Anhana Keraf. Let's give her a big round of applause. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our hosts, allow us to extend our profound gratitude and sincere thanks to everyone for your participation and for your attendance here today. Without your support, this event would not be possible. So for that, ladies and gentlemen, let us give a big round of applause for everyone here. Now, ladies and gentlemen, next we're going to invite our experts, our speakers that are undoubtedly experts in their respective fields, and together we're going to talk about an array of topics surrounding creating green investment opportunities and potential here in Jakarta. Knowing that Indonesia is the largest economy in Southeast Asia, we are also the largest island nation and also the fourth most populous country in the world. Creating green investment opportunities is undoubtedly the highlight of this year. And together, hand in hand, I believe that we can do this. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about environment policy and investments and projects readiness here in Indonesia, ESG or environmental, social, and governance investment strategies, and how it is impacting the investment industry and climate here in Indonesia, as well as investor demand for sustainable and socially responsible investment opportunities, social aspect of ESG investing, and last but not least, on the study case of implementation, opportunities, and challenges. So without further ado, it is with incredible honor that we shall welcome to the stage to deliver her opening remarks, the head of Bank Indonesia DKI Jakarta. Let's give a big round of applause for Ibu Arliana Abu Bakar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished panelists for today, Ibu Heti from Ministry of Environment and Forestry Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Mio Zin, Investment Executive, British International Investment, and Bapak Ricky Frindos, Executive Director from Kehati Foundations, Ibu Hana Keraf, CEO from Du Anyam, and our moderator, our beautiful moderator for this afternoon, Ibu Emilia Yahya. Ladies and gentlemen in this room, may I also greet our audience from YouTube, because this occasion also you can stream through the YouTube. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon. Of course, it is a great honor for me to be here. I thanks to speakers and also participants for making the time to attend to this event. I believe this forum will enable us to strengthen our cooperation through sharing of experience and also an idea, especially in promoting Indonesia and Jakarta as a prime investment hub. Ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you a little bit about the current economic conditions. Amidst the global risk, the momentum of economic recovery in Jakarta is continues to persist. Economic growth in 2023 is forecasted to remain robust, ranging from 4.8% to 5.6%. The high economic growth is driven by increased household consumptions and a consistently strong export performance. In line with the national positive growth, Jakarta's economy also demonstrated a persistent and substantial growth in the first quarter of 2023, recording at 4.95% year-on-year. And investment shows a positive growth and has a significant contribution to the economic growth of Jakarta that reached 33.6% of the gross regional domestic product. And the largest contribution is still by the household consumptions at 60.9%. And the outlook for 2023 and 2024 is remain high, with the green investment playing a pivotal role in ensuring a sustainable growth in the future. The consistently well-managed inflation in Jakarta contribute significantly to fostering a favorable investments climate in the regions. As of August 2023, the inflation rate in Jakarta has been effectively maintained at 2.81%. It's demonstrating a decline compared to the previous month's rates of 3.20%, as well as a national inflation rate at 3.08%. And the global trends of the green economy refers to a shift toward sustainable and environmentally friendly practices in various sectors, with the aim of reducing carbon emissions, conserving natural resources, and mitigating the impact of climate change. The green economy encompasses various industries, such as renewable energy, clean technology, sustainable agriculture, circular economy, initiative, and environmentally conscious manufacturing processes. Conference of the Parties, or COP27, as the Convention of the Climate Change, play a significant role in promoting and advancing the green economy. And now, connecting this to Indonesian net zero programs, it is important to understand that Indonesia, like many other countries, is facing the impact of climate change and has set ambitious goals to reduce its carbon emissions. The net zero programs aims to achieve a balance between greenhouse gas emissions produced and removed from the atmosphere by 2050. That is accelerated from the previous target at 2060. And as aimed by many cities in Asia and other parts of the world to become a global city, they have been striving to enhance their global reputation and competitiveness. Being a global city typically entails having a significant influence on global economics, financial, cultural, and political affairs. Such cities often attract a foreign investment, skilled professional, and offer a high standard of living. Regarding the green economy aspect, Jakarta has been making efforts to promote sustainability and address environmental challenges. The city authorities and policymakers have recognized the importance of adopting green practices to improve the livability of Jakarta and mitigate the impact of climate change, which are published in Jakarta Climate Action Plan 2021 to 2051. Some of the initiatives and efforts that Jakarta have undertaken to embrace the green economy, among others, are improving its public transportation systems, including the development of mass rapid transit or MRT, implementing waste management strategies to reduce the impact of waste of the environment, and exploring the integration of renewable energy resources, such as solar power, to reduce its reliance on fossil fuels and lower carbon emissions. However, to becoming a more sustainable and globally recognized city, Jakarta needs continued commitment and collaborations from government authorities, businesses, and communities. By integrating sustainable politics and policies, promoting eco-friendly practices, and embracing the principle of the green economy, Jakarta can enhance its livability, resilience, and environmental quality. And to achieve a green economy and foster sustainable development, of course, there is environmental, social, and government, or ESG, consideration have emerged as a critical aspect to be embedded in the investment projects. ESG factors encompass a wide range of issues related to the environment impact, social responsibility, and corporate governance practices. Embracing ESG principles in investments not only align businesses with ethical and sustainable practices, but also helps mitigate risk and enhance long-term financial performance. In the context of Indonesia and Jakarta as well, the implementation of ESG in the investment projects has been gaining traction, albeit at a varying pace across different sectors. The country, which is rich biodiversity and vast natural resources, face both unique challenges and opportunities in transitioning to a more sustainable economy. Bank Indonesia also committed in advancing a green economy and sustainable financing through the implementation of green policy initiative. As part of this commitment, Bank Indonesia has released some regulation to support green economy and financing. Among others are regulation on ratio of green loan to value for electric vehicle and green property, and also ratio of macroprudential inclusive financing for green financing. And to foster a more robust domestic financial market, Bank Indonesia is actively working on a creation of green commercial paper, green repo, and green derivative instruments to facilitate sustainable financing. In recognition of the vital role of micro and small enterprises in the national economy, all SMEs, Bank Indonesia is proactively assisting those entities in transitioning into green MSEs. A pivotal step toward these objectives is the introduction of the Green MSEs Development Business Model in 2023. To reinforce the green policy initiative, Bank Indonesia is also undertaking effort to raise public awareness and foster cooperation among relevant stakeholders. We at Bank Indonesia Jakarta Representative Office exemplified this initiative by implementing some green projects such as urban farming cluster and also economic empowerment of Islamic boarding school through waste treatment facility and capacity building in eco-fashions. By pursuing these measures, Bank Indonesia aims to create a more sustainable and inclusive economic and financial landscape, which actively supporting the green economy. Therefore, this afternoon, I would like to invite all of you to participate in the discussion. And last but not least, I also would like to extend my appreciation to the committee for the strong effort in preparing this event. I think I will conclude my keynote speech and wishing you had a delighted and fruitful discussion. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Terima kasih Ibu. Thank you very much for the insightful and informative opening remarks. And now we understand all the incredible steps and the evident steps taken for the development of creating Jakarta into a more green investment friendly, as well as an environmentally city that is also a city of collaboration. Thank you very much Ibu. And now ladies and gentlemen, let us start our thematic discussions, and that is on creating green investment opportunities and potential here in Jakarta. And allow me to present to you our great speakers. They're all undoubtedly the experts in their respective fields, and together we're going to learn so much from them. So ladies and gentlemen, before I invite our incredible speakers on stage, allow me to tell you a little bit about them. Bapak Ibu sekalian, sebelum saya mengundang speakers kami atau narasumber kami naik ke atas panggung, izinkan saya untuk memberikan sedikit introduction terlebih dahulu. Nah, Bapak Ibu sekalian, untuk speaker pertama kami, Her work experience includes as a director of water pollution control from last year until today, and she was also the head of subdirectorate for planning of water protection and quality management, also assigned as the acting director of water pollution control, and her education includes a bachelor's degree in chemistry dari Universitas Gadjah Mada and a master's degree in urban and regional planning and science of the University of Gadjah Mada. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome to the stage the Director of Water Pollution Control of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry of the Republic of Indonesia. Let's give a big round of applause for Ibu Neti Widayati. Selamat datang Ibu, kami persilakan untuk duduk di tengah. Yes, terima kasih Ibu. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're so incredibly happy to have Ibu Neti here with us. Dan selanjutnya, Bapak Ibu sekalian, allow me to read out the CV of our next speaker. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as for our next speaker, he is Bapak Ricky Frindos. He is from Kehati. Yes, so beliau, he graduated from with a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Bandung Institute of Technology, or ITB, and also studied economics in Pajajaran University. And he was also the CEO of the Chief Investments sector at PT Eastspring Investments Indonesia, and was also the investment director with global macro team of Eastspring Investments in Singapore. And ladies and gentlemen, he's currently also the commissioner of PT Mandiri Management Investasi and the non-executive director of Mandiri Investment Management Singapore from Mandiri Group. Let us give a big round of applause for Bapak Ricky. Mari kita beri tepuk tangan. Pak Ricky, so happy to have you here. We welcome you to sit on the left side of Ibu Neti. Terima kasih Pak Ricky. And ladies and gentlemen, as for our next speaker, allow me to tell you a little bit about her. What an incredible figure. So ladies and gentlemen, she graduated with a bachelor's degree in international business from Ritsumeikan University. And she was also the initiator who revived weaving tradition through the Du Anyam, or Women Weaving Initiative in East Flores, East Nusa Tenggara. And her woven products were selected as one of the official souvenirs of 2018's Jakarta Palembang Asian Games. What an incredible time. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a big round of applause for Ibu Hana. Ibu Hana, please be seated next to me. Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker, what an incredible figure. Ladies and gentlemen, he does not hail from Indonesia, but from Myanmar. Am I correct? Yes. And please allow me to tell you a little bit about him. So Mr. Myozin is a core member of the coverage team responsible for British international investors' expansion into Southeast Asia, focusing on climate finance. And Mr. Myozin currently serves as the board observer to the largest internet service provider in Myanmar. And previously, Mr. Myozin was the country representative for British international investments in Myanmar, and also the country manager of Omidyar Network. Let us give a big round of applause for Mr. Myozin. Mr. Myozin, so happy to have you here. I'd like to be seated next to Bapak Ricky. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, so before we start our Q&A session, our speakers would like to extend and deliver their presentations. First, before we start with the Q&A session, and afterwards, I am sure everyone will not hesitate to ask questions to our speakers, and therefore, I'd like to kindly ask you to just raise your hand and then just propose the questions and to whom you're proposing the questions for, and then later, our wonderful speakers are going to answer those questions for you. So, ladies and gentlemen, we'll have 10 minutes for each speakers to deliver their presentation, and we will start with Ibu Neti. Ibu Neti, kami persilakan untuk memberikan presentasinya. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give her a big round of applause.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. thank you for this opportunity for be here. So I will give some presentation about the wrong title, I think. Yeah, environment policy and investment in Indonesia. Maybe I think because almost all of participants from Indonesia, may I speak in bahasa?
Of course, Ibu.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, next. Yeah, technological change hot out the promise of a rising global income, but bring potential threats. On the other hand, it is seen as having facilitated population growth in pure society to ultimately in supportable level, and one the other, it has generated demands, especially in richer societies, for an unsustainable exploitation of nature, with effect that may be global. Next. Nah, lanjut. Nah, ini dampak-dampak yang ditimbulkan kalau eksploitasi tidak di-manage dengan benar, jadi tentunya berdampak negatif terhadap lingkungan. Ini yang sudah pernah terjadi bahwa ada beberapa kepunahan. Jadi yang pertama kepunahan Devonian akhir sekitar 359 juta tahun yang lalu. Kemudian ada beberapa kepunahan. Dan apa yang terjadi kalau kita tidak memanage dengan benar ke depannya. Saya rasa udara bersih susah didapatkan, air bersih susah didapatkan gitu ya. Kalau bensin susah didapatkan mungkin nggak ada masalah, masih bisa hidup gitu ya. Tapi kalau air bersih tidak susah didapatkan, udara bersih tidak bisa didapatkan, nggak bisa hidup kita gitu. Lanjut. Nah, ada harapan ke depan. Ada 8 hal yang diharapkan oleh masyarakat. Pertama, renewable energy. Kemudian terkait water is responsible source and available to all. Kemudian waste does not exist. Kemudian natural resources are managed to safeguard communities, animal and ecosystem. Kemudian the environment is free from pollution. Kemudian sampai ke social norms, global governance and economic growth, drive to the pursuit of future fitness. Nah, ini hal-hal yang diharapkan oleh masyarakat pada umumnya. Sehingga pemerintah dalam hal ini KLHK, lanjut. Untuk mencapai tujuan tersebut, maka kami mengembangkan program penilaian kinerja terhadap perusahaan dalam pengelolaan lingkungan. Ini mungkin Bapak Ibu sudah kenal dengan program kami yang namanya Proper, dan ini sudah diadop sama Bank Indonesia ya Ibu. Jadi investor, pengusaha kalau mau ngajukan hutang ke bank, itu salah satu syaratnya adalah Proper ini. Kemudian selain diadop oleh bank-bank di Indonesia juga buyer di luar negeri itu juga mensyaratkan proper ini minimal biru gitu. Kalau belum ikut proper itu biasanya nggak jadi investasi atau nggak jadi beli produk kita. Nah, ini terkait proper, jadi tujuannya mendorong perusahaan untuk taat terhadap aturan. Jadi taat aturan itu biru, kemudian kalau lebih dari yang dipersyaratkan itu bisa hijau atau emas. Nah, di dalam melakukan penilaian proper hijau dan emas ini dasarnya adalah life cycle assessment. Lanjut. Jadi perusahaan harus melakukan inventarisasi input dan output setiap tahapan, di mana yang menggunakan energi terbesar, di mana yang menghasilkan polluted terbesar, sehingga bisa dilakukan inovasi-inovasi untuk perbaikan lingkungan. Nah ini yang paling mendasari, sehingga tadi diskusi sama Ibu yang dari Transjakarta, kita harus melakukan inventory. Tahapan yang mana yang energinya besar, tahapan yang mana yang emisi itu bisa ke air, ke udara, ke tanah ya, yang besar. Tadi dari diskusi ada penggunaan energi ya. Selain bahan bakar juga di terminal itu menggunakan energi. Nah, Transjakarta sudah menggunakan solar panel. Nah, itu adalah salah satu untuk mengurangi penggunaan energi yang tentunya dampaknya adalah emisinya juga berkurang. Seperti itu. Lanjut. Nah, tujuannya mengevaluasi dampak lingkungan dari produk, dari akuisisi bahan baku sampai pengolahan akhir. Jadi kalau kita mau melakukan usaha, kita harus melakukan inventory dampak yang dihasilkan dari awal produk sampai hasil akhir, seperti itu. Sehingga di mana yang penggunaan energi atau emisi terbesar itu, kita melakukan inovasi-inovasi untuk perbaikan lingkungan sehingga dampak yang ditimbulkan ke lingkungan menjadi menurun, seperti itu. Nah ini kita gunakan di dalam kriteria penilaian proper ini. Jadi untuk perusahaan yang mau ke hijau dan emas itu harus melakukan ini, sehingga harus melakukan inovasi-inovasi untuk pengurangan energi ataupun pengurangan emisi yang dihasilkan. Sehingga ini tujuan pembangunan yang hijau itu bisa tercapai. Lanjut. Nah ini tahapannya, jadi memang kami ada metode yang sudah baku, ada ISO, kemudian ada SNI gitu ya. Lanjut. Nah manfaatnya apa? Lanjut. Nah ini ada beberapa contoh, kayak seperti di hotel, penggunaan energi terbesar, jadi di setiap tahapan kegiatan itu diinventory, sehingga tahu penggunaan energi terbesar ternyata di air condition, kemudian di pendingin ya, lebih ke pendingin, kemudian cahaya lampu gitu ya. Sehingga setelah tahu dampak terbesarnya di mana, hotspotnya di mana, maka bisa dilakukan inovasi untuk mengurangi itu, sehingga kalau inovasi dilakukan di hotspot maka hasilnya juga signifikan. Lanjut. Nah ini manfaatnya sebenarnya ya itu tadi, bisa melakukan perbaikan kinerja lingkungan secara signifikan dengan mengetahui hotspot dari dampak yang dihasilkan dari tahapan yang dilakukan. Lanjut. Nah dari proper itu jadi tahun ini 3.200 perusahaan yang ikut peserta proper, dan ini kita rekap dari data dari yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan yang masuk ke hijau dan emas. Ini terjadi pengurangan emisi yang luar biasa. Jadi ada penurunan emisi GRK sebesar 112.886 ton CO2 ekuivalen, kemudian efisiensi energi juga sekitar 469 juta gigajoule, kemudian efisiensi air 326 juta meter kubik, kemudian 3R limbah non B3 ada 10 juta ton, kemudian 3R limbah B3 sekitar 25 juta ton gitu ya, kemudian penurunan beban pencemaran, kemudian penurunan emisi konvensional itu kita rekap ternyata inovasi-inovasi yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan itu berdampak sangat besar terhadap pengurangan emisi baik udara maupun air maupun tanah. Lanjut. Nah ini inovasi-inovasi yang dilakukan oleh 800 oleh perusahaan yang emas dan hijau, jadi ada 872 inovasi. Ini inovasinya, jadi kita mengkolek inovasi yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan, dan dana bergulir untuk CSR itu juga lumayan besar gitu. Lanjut. Nah, dengan mekanisme penilaian kinerja perusahaan dalam pengelolaan lingkungan ini, terutama yang untuk peringkat hijau dan emas, itu kami mengkolek program-program yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan itu mendukung indikator SDGs dari nomor 1 sampai nomor 17. Jadi ini data dari tahun ke tahun, itu capaiannya meningkat gitu ya, dari tahun ke tahun, mulai dari mengakhiri segala bentuk kemiskinan dimanapun. Jadi ini program yang dilakukan oleh perusahaan, khususnya program ke masyarakat. Jadi ada program-program CSR ya yang kami nilai itu bisa mengurangi bentuk kemiskinan. Jadi dengan program ini bisa memandirikan masyarakat seperti itu. Kemudian menghilangkan kelaparan. Jadi indikator SDGs ini dari 1 nomor sampai 17 ini kita dari seluruh program yang ada itu mendukung ini gitu. Ini kita rekap dari tahun ke tahun pencapaiannya meningkat seperti itu. Jadi tentunya peran perusahaan ini kan sangat dibutuhkan ya di dalam mengurangi dampak-dampak terhadap lingkungan, sehingga di dalam melakukan usaha itu juga harus melakukan manajemen bagaimana mengurangi dampak, bagaimana mengelola lingkungan dengan baik gitu, sehingga tadi dampak yang nanti ke depan yang mungkin kekurangan air bersih, kekurangan udara bersih itu bisa kita hindarkan. Mungkin itu yang bisa saya sampaikan. Terima kasih, mohon maaf kalau ada kekurangan dan ini kekurangan nanti kita bisa diskusi lebih lanjut. Saya kembalikan ke moderator.
Terima kasih banyak. Ibu Nati, mari kita beri tepuk tangan yang meriah. Terima kasih, dan selanjutnya Bapak Ibu sekalian, mari kita dengarkan presentasi. Let's hear it from the next presentation. That will be delivered from Kehati by Bapak Ricky Frindos. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for having me in this session. I understand I only have 10 minutes, right? So I'll jump directly to the section where I will share with you the Kehati initiative in sustainable investment in Indonesia. Can I get someone to put a slide on the screen? Maybe just move to the next slide, to the next section on the Kehati initiative. Next, please. Next. And one more slide. Yep, next slide. One more slide. Okay, so I think we all know that sustainable investments by definition is investment which takes into account environment, social, and governance on top of financial consideration, of course. And to be sustainable, we have to make sure that our investment as investors doesn't do any harm to the environment and society. Or even better, generate a good impact, positive impact to the environment and society. So sustainable investment, ESG investment, is basically sitting between, on one hand is a commercial, traditional investment where you only expect financial returns, and on the other end is philanthropic activities where you only expect the social and environmental impact. Kehati have done both of this. We are investors in capital market. We're managing our endowment fund, and we, of course, as non-profit organization, we also involved in a lot of philanthropic activities. And in the last couple of years, we moved into the middle, we expand into the middle and doing some initiative in ESG investment. Basically, there are two initiatives. One's in the capital market, in stock market, where we promote ESG investment among the companies listed in Jakarta Stock Exchange and also among the investors. And secondly is on the impact investment, investing in small and medium enterprises which bring direct, specific, and positive impact to the environment and society. Let me start from the first initiative of my foundation, our foundation, Kehati Foundation. Next slide, please. So back in 2009, 14 years ago, we actually pioneered ESG investing in Indonesian capital market when we launched the first ESG stock index. This is not only the first in Indonesia, this is only the first in Southeast Asia. We call it Sri Kehati Index. Sri stands for Sustainable and Responsible Investment. What do? What we do is actually we screen, we assess, and then we rank all the companies that are listed in the Jakarta Stock Exchange based on their ESG performance, based on ESG indicators. And then we pick the top 25. the best 25, and then we create the stock index. We construct stock index, which consists of these 25, the best companies in JSX based on the ESG performance. And why we do this? We do this first, we would like to motivate, encourage companies to adopt ESG, ESG practice in their businesses, in their operation. And number two, we do the same thing for the investor. We would like investors to integrate, to take into account ESG when they make investment decision, when they invest into the companies, when they buy stocks of the companies and the stock exchange. We focus on the second initiative, basically on investors. We have this scheme of collaboration with asset management companies, with the fund managers. So basically the fund managers create a mutual fund and they get their clients to put money into that mutual fund, reksadana in Bahasa Indonesia, and then they invest this mutual fund into stocks that are selected by Kehati Foundation based on the ESG performance of the companies. So, and number two, part of this collaboration, the fund managers who charge fee to their clients share some of the fees and donate to the Kehati Foundation, which we use in some of our environmental and social program across Indonesia. So basically, if you are an investor buying mutual fund, this ESG mutual fund, you get the three things. Number one, of course, you should expect some financial return. You buy the mutual fund, invest in stock market. Number two, you can be assured that the stock that you buy via that mutual fund is actually from the companies that are more environmentally friendly, more socially friendly, because they are selected by Kehati Foundation. And number three, you can directly contribute to the real world impact, make a direct impact, because some of your fund will be donated to Kehati, and we use it to some of our environment and social program across Indonesia. Next slide, please. Okay, so today we already have a collaboration with 13 fund managers, which mobilize about 5 trillion of their client asset and invest into the stocks, into the companies that are environmentally, socially friendly, that are selected by Kehati Foundation as of today. Yeah, 13, about 5 trillion. Next slide, please. And this is I mentioned to you before. For the investors who buy this ESG mutual fund, they also directly, indirectly contribute to some environmental and social program of Yayasan Kehati. This is just one of the examples. We channel that donation to Flores Island in East Nusa Tenggara Timur, where we support the communities there to adapt into the climate change challenges and also to help them strengthen the food security among the communities in Flores Islands. 4 minutes. Next slide, please. And I'm happy to share with you, I'm proud to share with you that this initiative, the ESG initiative by Kehati Foundation, we get some global recognition. 2 years ago, we won this award, the SIA Award, the Sustainable Investment Action in Paris, together with the BNP Paribas Asset Management, one of our fund manager partner. And we also, nominated for a very prestigious PRI award in 2021 for the 2 categories. So this is Kehati Foundation is the first organization, the first institution, the first company in Indonesia that ever nominated by PRI to get the PRI award in 2021. Okay, next slide. This is the second initiative. The first initiative with the ESG investing in the capital market, where Kehati Foundation was the pioneer. And the second one is the impact investment. Impact investment, basically investing in normally the small or medium size of enterprises, which bring positive impact, a direct positive, very specific impact to the environment and society. There are 2 streams that we are doing in our organization. The first one is to build up pipelines. So as an environmental organization, we are the grant-making organization. We provide grants to many organizations across Indonesia. Of course, we cannot provide the grant forever to them. So we would like to get some of them to move to the next level, so they become commercially viable, so they can access commercial funding from the financial market, or at least funding from the impact investor. So that one hand. On the other side is on the investing side. We also promote and encourage working together with some organization, with some investor, venture capital, to promote, bring awareness about investing in small, medium enterprises, in startup companies, which bring positive impact to the environment and society. And we also walk the talk. We also invest some of our endowment fund, our foundation money into the companies, into the small, medium enterprise companies, which bring social and environmental impact to the environment and social and the societies. And at the moment, we are also working actually to get the other parties, the other investors, to get hands in hands to pool our financial resources to set up a fund, so we have more leverage. And when we invest and when we encourage the sustainability among the small or among the startup business in Indonesia. Next slide. This is just our investment strategy in terms of the impact investments, because we like to support the startup companies. Of course, this should be the early stage of business that we support, and we invest in terms of we provide the equity investment or equity-like in instruments. And in terms of the impacts perspective, what kind of the business that we provide support, that we provide funding from the impact perspective, we actually targeted the business startup. They provide a solution, breakthrough to a sustainability agenda, especially related to the what people call the three planetary crises. It is the climate change, nature and biodiversity loss, and waste and pollution. Next slide, please. This is just a bit elaboration in terms of our strategy when we assess the impact of the potential startup companies that we are going to invest. So we're coming from that three: climate change, nature and biodiversity, and waste and pollution. We try to connect it to the SDGs. Next slide. This is just sample of startup companies that we invest. I cannot disclose the name because this is relatively new agreement. For now, we cannot discuss the name. So basically, this is the sustainable agriculture companies. The first one is coffee plantation, and the second one is gula aren, Arenga sugar. So this plantation in West Java, working together with communities in West Java to build a sustainable plantation, and then the companies sell it to the consumer, mostly in Jakarta. So I think that's it for me. Thank you. Hand it back to moderator.
Terima kasih banyak. Let's give a big round of applause for Bapak Riki. What an incredible, very informative presentation. And next, ladies and gentlemen, let us hear it from Duanyam. Let us give a big round of applause for Ibu Hana.
Yes. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for having me. Today, let me share a little bit about one of the example, I think, of private sector, how we can actually implement ESG in our business model and actually having market and investors driving with having the ESG principles in our business model. Next. Yes, while waiting for next. I think today I want to put a bit of context on how we can put ESG principles in our business model. So from the perspective of private sector, we see that private sector is increasingly more aware of the importance of ESG principles. Many companies now are implementing ESG principles in their practices due to, of course, three main factors: government push, investors' needs, and also for the growing public awareness, especially from the market demand side. And then we can also see that social aspect of ESG is particularly important in Indonesia, as well as Jakarta, with the huge population that Indonesia has. We still have social challenges such as child labor, gender inequality, human rights abuses, disparity of economic development as well, all around Indonesia. And we can see that actually private sector can play a very crucial and significant role in addressing these social challenges. By implementing ESG policies and practices, companies can also, absolutely help to improve the life of millions of Jakartans and Indonesia. For examples as well, numbers of ways that companies can implement ESG policies and practices is in investing in employment training and development, providing fair wages and benefit, promoting workplace diversity inclusion, and supporting community development projects and so on. So It's not necessarily always about CSR, having the ESG principles. It's about how having the ESG principles, practices inside the business model itself. Not only about providing scholarship for students all around Indonesia or in Jakarta, but how we can hire and pay fairly to employments inside of our organizations, for example. Next. I think I will also want to share a bit before introducing about to Anyam. I think we're a very small company compared to everyone in the room. Very humble to be here. I think I want to share a bit context of our journey of. It is proven that when market demands or market drives for ESG principles to be implemented all along the supply chain, it actually can work. The business model can actually work, and we can actually have a sustainable business. We've seen that in around 8 years of, we're entering our 9th year, Duanyam itself. We've seen this, how the demand for products, for services that are close to sustainable approaches are increasing particularly. I think we see that consumers are increasingly aware of ESG issues, sorry, and are more likely to support companies that are seen as being socially responsible. This means that companies that implement ESG policies and practices that can attract and retain customers, employees, and also investors. So it's not always about having the right customers, but also for us as entrepreneurs, we have the top talent that are actually attracted to ESG issues and wants to be part of the solution and contribute to the issues itself. We see that, for example, a study by Nielsen found that 66% of global consumers are willing to pay more for products and services from companies that are committed to social and environmental responsible companies. So next, I think I want to introduce a little bit about the company itself. Duanyam, it stands for Dua Menganyam. Dua in one of a local dialect in East Nusa Tenggara means mother, and then Anyam means weaving, so it's literally mother's weaving. So we're a social enterprise. We're one of the leading social enterprises in Indonesia in handicrafts. We produce and distribute wicker craft products from women in rural parts of Indonesia. We focus our production in South Kalimantan, East Nusa Tenggara, and our head office is still in Jakarta, where we also have a workshop for value-add processing for the products itself. We have over 1,200 weavers, women, in rural parts of Indonesia, and we're entering our 9th year, still growing. We hope to be growing even bigger from now on. And we are collaborating with more than 500 clients. This also shows, this is growing, and this also shows that our B2B partners, our clients are aware of sourcing products with traceability, products that are from women in rural parts of Indonesia, products that are sourced locally using local fibers, contributing to the sustainability of the raw materials itself. And we're very proud, we're one of 12 companies in end-to-end, product designer, engineers, in logistic, finding the right vendor for logistic that complies to all the ESG principles that also IKEA holds, has been very helpful for us as well. Next. I want to show that handicrafts is, us Indonesians, we have a strong image that handicraft is very kampung, very SMEs, a product that grows very slowly, but unfortunately, all around Indonesia, women, especially in rural parts of the area, has the skill. It is one of the skill that actually can provide additional income, employment, when we talk about local economic development in all around Indonesia itself. The market is there, the market is big, both national and globally. These are 4 segments of the market that we hold at the moment. We have B2B home decor, where products are 100% biodegradable. We're serving clients, international clients, brands that are looking and sourcing for products that have different types of natural fiber, Indonesia is very famous with pandan, eceng gondok, for example, but we provide different types of fibers. For example, in South Kalimantan, we work with purun in order to prevent fire and peatland. And then also in East Nusa Tenggara, we work with palmyra. So two different type of natural fiber. We also collaborate with fashion and textile brands, collaborating in developing new products and then selling under their brand, promoting again different types of businesses, hand in hand, supporting women all around Indonesia. We also serve the hospitality market. A lot of conscious travelers now entering Indonesia, looking for hotels that has amenities with stories. When you enter 4 or 5 stars hotels, resorts, you want to look that your slippers are locally made, locally sourced, using local fibers, contributing to replanting programs. You want to feel that when you spend on luxurious travels, but you can actually contribute to the local economy. And then we'll also serving the MICE industry, corporate and event gifts, Asian Games, G20, a lot of international events in Indonesia. We have been really proud to be part of their souvenirs. Next. This is a very simplified model of how the community and the business works. So we work with end-to-end from the raw material all the way until the end of the market itself. So we source raw materials from local community, make sure that there's a sustainable harvesting practices, sustainable supply practices as well amongst villages or communities that we work. We provide insights, technical assistance on how to develop products that can fit containers the most for us to ensure that we have the most efficient shipping cost from East Flores. And then we also built an internal system on how we can pay women, the artisans, periodically and transparent. We have a QC system in Flores, in Jakarta, and then all the way to our client. Okay, and as I mentioned, I think, next slide, one of the key here is that once the market drives for the demand, once we hear and listen what market wants, we see that millennials, especially Gen Zs now, are very conscious about the products that they consume or about the companies are there. Oh, sorry. So I think I'll finalize on this. I think once the market end-to-end in the supply chain supports on implementing the ESG principles, we as off-takers in the middle, aggregator that works with communities, SMEs all around Indonesia, can also comply to the ESG principles, including on gender equality, children protection, fairly paid artisans protect the planet, and also we the waste management that we implement in our channels. So I think I'll close and end in there. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Let's give her a big round of applause. Wow, Ms. Hannah, what an incredible evidence that is on how ESG adoption can lead to the improvements and the further developments of the local economy. Thank you very much for the enlightening presentation. And ladies and gentlemen, next is from the British International Investments. Let us give a big round of applause for Mr. Myozin.
Hello. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so delighted to be here with such a distinguished panel and the guests. We are how can I put it? British International Investment. We are owned by the UK government. Next slide, please. We are the UK government's development finance institution and the impact investor with a long history of 75 years. We deploy our investments with the taxpayers' money from the UK. We operate in Asia, Africa, and now very recently we're starting to enter into Indo-Pacific region. Next slide, please. We have 10 billion in total assets. We commit around 2.5 billion annually, and we operate in 64 countries in Africa and Asia. Next, please. So the type of the capital that we can provide. So we invest through across the capital structure, from equity to debt and anything in between. We also invest in the funds as well. Sector funds, SME funds, credit funds, venture capital, risk sharing facility, impact funds, etc. For debt, we can provide senior debt, mezzanine, project finance, trade finance. And we also, subscribe to bonds as well, green bonds mainly. And we are, I think, as opposed to other development finance institutions, we are mainly, our book is predominantly equity. So we are about 75% equity in our book. I think for other DFIs, I think the debt is much more significant. Next, please. So for our investees, we try to build value, create value through different sort of services, right? So one is business integrity, such as implementing the business integrity standards, systems, and we try to be much more thoughtful in the corporate governance process, board effectiveness. We also strengthen the environmental and social standards as well. Gender is also very important to us, so we subscribe to 2A's challenge. And we, encourage the women participation in our investees. It's great to see, a lot of the women on the panel. And then, I think, we also try to build the, skills of the workforce and the local communities as well. Next, please. Just very briefly, so we have a dual mandate, in our investments, right? So one is, we have to make, some sort of commercial returns. But also at the same time, we have to make investment impact in all our investments. So that's thoroughly scrutinized at our investment committees. So how we measure our impact is we measure through 3 scores. So one is productivity, second is sustainability, and the third is inclusivity. So productivity is all about sort of improving the lives of the economy, the living standards and the economy. Sustainability is all about sort of how to mitigating the climate challenges, adaptation and promoting the adaptation and the resilience of the countries. Inclusivity is about benefiting the lower income sort of population in the country. So all 3 together, will have an impact score, which is sort of measured against our KPI, right? Next, please. So as I was saying, we have recently entered into Southeast Asia. We've been operating in Myanmar, but it was a part of South Asia in our internal system. But now we are recently re-entering into Southeast Asia. We had long histories in Southeast Asia. For example, in Jakarta, we made investments in the 70s and 80s and 90s as well. But of course, I think since 2012 we haven't made any investments. But I think our shareholder has asked us to sort of move into Southeast Asia, but focusing on climate finance. So we are now mandated to invest up to £500 million over the next few years. I think primarily focusing on climate finance. So we wouldn't be doing, in other geographies we can invest in financial services, technology companies, industries, manufacturing, etc. But here in Southeast Asia, we'll only be focusing on climate. So basically what we're talking about is, utility scale, CNI, renewable energy platforms, waste treatment, water treatment, resource efficiencies, e-mobility, EV ecosystem, for example, charging station, EV manufacturing. We can also explore sort of lending to the financial institutions or lending to other borrowers, focusing on the climate. Next, please. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that we will be focusing on, in Southeast Asia, we'll be focusing on Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, and as the major markets, but also Cambodia and Laos is also, the countries that we'll cover as well. Just on the, our experience and investing in climate, we started a 100% owned renewable energy platform called Ayana, and that platform over the span of within a few years have about 4 gigawatt in operation and construction. And as I say, we started at 100%, but now we became a minority because we mobilized about $500 million from other investors, including India's sovereign wealth fund. We also have partnership with other large major developers like Jakarta. We have invested in a sort of transmission and distribution platform called Gridworks. And very recently, we made our first investment in Southeast Asia called Suzy Partners, which is an energy transition fund, which should be investing into renewable energy developers in this region. Next, please. So this is Ayana that I was talking about. I'll skip this. Next, please. Next. Next, yeah. That's fine. Yeah. So very, very quickly, so ESG is a major part of our business, right? So every investment that we do, we need to have, the environmental social team and business integrity teams are part of the investments teams. Why we do that is because, I think for the environmental social, it's very important to see how the business impacts the environment, how the well-being of the staff and the wider society are impacted, and from the business integrity as well, we need to see the financial crimes and ethical practices, and those things can be really sort of have the negative effect to the business. Next, please. I think the ENS and business integrity really create values to the companies, right? So one aspect is of course risk mitigation. Having a strong ENS and BI management system, I think they will preserve the license to operate. They will reduce risk in terms of reputational, regulatory, operational risk. And then it really creates value creation, right? Because these days a lot of the investors are demanding having a strong ENS systems and the BI systems in the company. So we're starting to collect the data on how much of the increase in valuation that can sort of become if you compare two companies with and without the ENS systems and BI systems. Next, please. Just a few trends that we're seeing in the market in terms of the ENS standards. So ESG standards for investors are increasing and expanding, and then there are even standardized standards coming from the regulators, so such as stock exchange as well. And then we invest in a lot of the funds, right? So we are sort of starting to see specialists in-house capabilities within the funds as well. And then some of the challenges can be repeatedly occurring. For example, climate challenge. We know about this. How serious it is. Human rights. Stakeholder management, the labor standards, etc. So those standards are really changing, and therefore I think as investors, as the companies who are raising the funding, I think they should really be sort of mindful of the new challenges. Next, please. Next. Yes. Okay. So for BII, we subscribe to something called Policy on Responsible Investing, which lays out the mandatory requirements for our investees. So one is from the environmental social requirements. We require our investees to comply with the national laws, ILO labor standards. Our own safeguarding policy, which involves preventions for modern slavery, forced labor, etc. And then of course we have the exclusion list and the fossil fuel policy as well. Next, please. Again, in terms of the business integrity standards, again, national laws are something that we ask our investees to comply with. And they need to have whistleblowing mechanism, corruption, not engage in corruption, fraud, money laundering, and they have to adhere to the sanction list as well. Of course, we don't expect our investees to be ready and have these systems in place at in day one, but we want the commitment from them that they will be moving into that direction. Next, please. Last slide. Next. So in addition to the core requirements that we had earlier, we also assess some of the the major risks that are emerging. But based upon the risk, then we make the examinations of those particular areas. So those will be resource efficiency, pollution, community health and safety, land acquisition, settlement, biodiversity issues, especially on infrastructure projects, renewable energy projects, the issues around indigenous people, cultural heritage, supply chain risks, especially around forced labor issues in supply chain in the renewable energy these days, etc. Next, please. Yeah, I mean so this, again, for the BI standard, I think we expect we assess the major risks in the business integrity standards, and if there are sort of potential risks, then we will work together with our investees to make that to add value to the company. Yeah, I'll just conclude that here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miosin. Let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you so much to our dear speakers for extending your knowledge with all of us. What an incredibly insightful and informative presentation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let us start our Q&A session. For those of you who have any questions, please do not hesitate to raise your hand and propose the questions and to whom you're proposing the questions for, and then our speakers will answer them for you. Okay, as we wait for everyone to prepare your questions, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to first dominate and hog this session with my questions first. And mungkin pertanyaan pertama saya ini saya akan ajukan kepada Ibu Neti. Ibu Neti, dari presentasi tadi, of course, it is extremely vital for the Indonesian government to push and to encourage private sectors to adopt ESG aspects. And pertanyaan saya, Ibu, apakah ada insentif or any other encouragements that's being implemented by the government to further push private entities and companies to adopt ESG?
Ya, saya jawab bahasa Indonesia ya. Ya. Sebenarnya tidak ada insentif dan disinsentif yang secara langsung kami berikan, tapi program proper ini tidak mandatory tapi voluntary, tapi ternyata menjadi persyaratan di beberapa hal. Tadi saya bilang kayak pinjam ke bank itu salah satu syaratnya adalah proper biru minimal. Kemudian bayar di luar negeri itu juga proper biru minimal. Kemudian kalau pengaruh terhadap harga saham juga. Jadi kalau peringkat propernya turun itu harga sahamnya juga turun seperti itu. Jadi kami tidak memberikan insentif secara langsung, dan disinsentif juga ada dari masyarakat gitu ya. Kalau propernya merah katakanlah tidak taat terhadap aturan, maka banyak aduan-aduan dari masyarakat seperti itu. Dan kalau sudah merah 2 kali, kami limpahkan ke penegakan hukum. Jadi penegakan hukum akan turun melakukan audit seperti itu. Seperti itu, Mbak.
Terima kasih banyak, Ibu Neti. And for anyone who would like to ask questions, please do not hesitate to interrupt me and just raise your hands. And now, ladies, oh yes, I have someone from the back. Kami persilakan. Bapak mungkin dimohon untuk berdiri. Terima kasih. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rahmat. I'm from ITDP Indonesia. We are an NGO promoting for sustainable transportation. And maybe I would like to ask to Mr. Miosin, because in your presentation before, you are presenting that one of the focus of investment in Southeast Asia is about e-mobility or electric vehicle. So maybe could you elaborate more what kind of investment that you're focusing in Southeast Asia, and we'd like to know more on this. Yeah, thank you. That's all from me.
Sure. Yeah. So for the e-mobility, I mean, we recently made a $250 million investment into Indian auto manufacturer called Mahindra to produce 4-wheeler cars, EV cars in India, and also export to the other countries. But in Southeast Asia, I don't think we'll be doing 4-wheelers. I think what we'll be looking at is I think we would be interested to look at 2-wheelers manufacturing or 3-wheelers manufacturing, and then we would be looking we could be looking at sort of EV ecosystem as well. So that means charging stations, battery swapping. We have made some investments through our funds into a battery swapping company very recently as well. So that's an area that we're exploring. And then battery manufacturing is also another area that we might be interested. So yeah, so those are the ones. And then I think there are also new models coming up, which is like having leasing arrangement with the large large users, large corporate users of these cars or sort of two-wheelers. Then I think leasing model could also be another type of investments that we can do. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muezzin, for answering, and thank you very much for the excellent question. And I'd like to ask anyone else. Yes, Bapak, kami persilahkan.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sahala. I'm from Ernst & Young. I would like to address my question to Ibu Hana. Thank you for sharing your very interesting journey of your company, Do Anyam. If I got you correctly, I think you mentioned earlier that being ESG compliant also help you on attracting good talents. Can you elaborate more on that one? Because I think that's very important aspect. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. I think the trend especially is in the past 3 to 5 years, I think especially for top talents. I think if I can trace back since the past year, we've attracted, I think, around 3 to 4. Previously, they were in managerial and also executive level of quite huge companies that actually wants to join and then see that Do Anyam grows and then support us in how we can maneuver and how we can pivot from a very community-based enterprises to become a more bigger in terms of capacity of production and then distribute more all around the world in global. So I think the brand Do Anyam itself were very pretty straightforward on what the pillars that we hold on. So we absolutely women empowerment is always in the core of the business itself. Not only from the community but also from the organizational of the company itself. 75% of the management level is women. We also the structure of our investors as well. Not only we have impact investors, both institutional and individuals, but majority of our shareholders are also women and are very concerned about women issues, gender disparity, especially in Indonesia. And then with the brand itself, we've seen that more senior, professional, experienced talents are more intrigued, not only millennials and Gen Zs. We also have one of previous C-level of one of Indonesia's top telco company and now working with us. So it's we can see that the urge of contributing back and then also seeing how the disparity of economic development in Indonesia has intrigued more people in Jakarta, so to how they can contribute to more rural areas in Indonesia. And Do Anyam has a very robust supply chain system, so that I think is also what attracts these talents. It's not only that we are doing goodness, but we have system. Although we're community-based enterprises, but we have systems. We are run just like any other for-profit companies. So I think that's also why we have these top talents interested in helping us to grow further. I think that. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Bu Hana. Thank you very much for the wonderful question. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. As we can see, where there is honey, there are bees. So when there is purpose, there will be good profit, Ibu, ya. And next, we'd like to ask anyone else who would like to ask questions. Do not hesitate to ask. And Bapak, kami persilahkan untuk, ya, dari organizers kami akan memberikan mic-nya.
First of all, I would like to congratulate all the speakers for their great works on promoting the green investment in all their sectors they're working around. First of all, especially Ibu Hana Keraf ya, Ibu Hana Keraf. Wonderful book, your job on this, making all of this working on a ESG with all of this, very gender equal conscious. You are welcome to the MRT Jakarta. My name is Farhad Mahfoud from MRT Jakarta, and you are welcome to have an outlet in our SME in one of our stations. Please start talking with us. Another part, actually I have another questions to the other gentleman here. When we talk about a green investment, usually it's talking about the energy type of infrastructures like renewable energy, like solar PV, etc. Yeah, like the EV. Yeah, but what is your opinion about investment in infrastructures that has a direct impact to reducing the emissions, especially promoting people movement, mobility, for example, that connected to, for example, like the transport facility like MRT Jakarta. You can speak about a bridge, you can speak about the park, which is why we are asking this is because MRT Jakarta right now is working with the Jakarta government for promoting the transit-oriented development. And we are, every year we are promoting every new infrastructures that can promote, efficient mobility, promote people to walk and using the public transport in the nearby of our stations. You can talk about housing, you can talk about making the housing close to the stations, making the park have a multifunctional facility like a library. You can talk about a bridge that has connecting the LRT Jakarta and the stations of KAI in Duku Atas, for example. This all has a, let's call it, aim to indirectly at least reduce the emissions so that people moving from using a car to using public transport. How do you position this type of investment potential? Because this is something which we really promote annually in your portfolio. Yeah, is it something on your appetite, and to what capacity that the investment can have attention from your appetite point of view? Thank you very much.
Terima kasih Bapak, and thank you for highlighting on the importance of urban development as well as transportation accessibility through the MRT. And Mr. Muezzin, maybe you would like to, if you have anything that you'd like to respond.
Sure, thanks for the question, Park. So I think you're absolutely right? I think for this climate emergency, we need to work on both direct mitigation from the direct emission. And also, indirect emission as well. So I think having the efficient mobility systems, public infrastructure, I think that's absolutely critical. And I think, I guess two things, right? So one is I think it will be dependent upon each institutions on, where their mandate is, right? So, for us, I think a lot of the development finance institution, our role is to provide capital where the commercial capital is not, is not interested, for example, right? Because if we just chase where the commercial capital is, then I think it doesn't really have any meaning to us, right? Because we want, because we are the balance sheet investor, for example, BII, we can take more risk than commercial capital. We can take, we can look at the longer time horizon compared to the commercial investors. So for those parameters, I think it's more beneficial for us to look at the projects which are more risky, which are more, which doesn't attract commercial investment, et cetera, et cetera. Hence, I think, sort of the type of the projects that, you're talking about, I think, for example, some of the kind of, commercial mixed use, et cetera. I think those will have, the easy interest from the, I think, large commercial, local, international investors. And I don't see the role for the DFI like us. So that's one, right? But the second is, I think, but there are, even in such developments, I think, there might be elements that may align with, our mandate. So for example, I was talking about, energy efficiency, I was talking about waste management, water management in these facilities, etc. Right? So to have a, efficient operation, right? I mean, you may probably contract it out to the third party, and then third party will have, off-take agreement with you. And then, we might be able to provide the CapEx funding for that particular assets, but not to the, whole mixed use sort of, bridge commercial, asset, but for the, type of, the specific assets, like could be, waste management, water management, etc. So I think that's something that we might be able to do. And then the second thing that I wanted to point out is, I think, for the more public infrastructure, like, MRT, right? I think the capital required is massive, right? I think for us, we only deploy around 2.5 billion, but that's globally, right? But for MRT, I think you will need 10 billion, right? For one particular project. So I think for that, I think we need to be mindful of where our capital is going, and how we can make the most impact out of it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhsin. And maybe I'd like to ask Ms. Ricky if you have anything that you'd like to respond to that.
I don't think we are investors in that scale, but I'd like to respond from the perspective of environmental organization. So I think 100% agree with you talking about the mobility. Sustainable mobility is not, of course, it's not only talking about the converting, ICE cars into the electric vehicle cars. There is a layer of system that we can improve to make mobility is more sustainable. Of course, we can transform the ICE cars into EV. Well, you can do much more simpler thing. For example, you can convert from riding cars into using two-wheelers, for example. Even much more important that you shift from using private vehicles into public stuff, maybe from bus and MRT and Transjakarta. So don't forget about it. There is a lot of things that we can do to improve the sustainability of mobility. And then there is another layer where I think is very important, maybe it's very fundamental, of course, is city planning. City planning is very important. Can you imagine if Singapore did not design the city in such, design, you can imagine how horrible transportation in Singapore. So city planning is very important, including the micro city planning like you mentioned before, like building up pedestrian grids between one station to the other station. So the basic, I think, for the sustainable mobility is just to make sure that people move when it is really necessary or it is for leisure. If it is not really necessary, it's not for your leisure, why you should move. If you design city in such a way, I don't have to move to go to work far away. I don't have to send my kids going to school. You're not worried about the public transportation. You're not worried about the EV car, whatever. So that's very basic. And the last one, the other layer, I think, is the technology. I think this is a really good example. Maybe there are like 20, 30 people in this room, and I believe maybe more on the YouTube, more on the Zoom. You can do it, with technology. It's not, we save how much energy, how much material, how much, maybe emission that we save if we use technology, working from anywhere, whatever. So there is so much layer that we can do, to transform our transportation system or mobility system to make it more sustainable. Of course, there is always people that will need car, for example, and of course we need to invest in EV ecosystem. But don't forget about the other part of system that can be more punchy, maybe with this little effort, like city planning, for example. Yeah, thank you.
Terima kasih banyak, Bapak Riki, and thank you for the wonderful question. And Bapak Riki, I have one last question that I would like to ask you with regards to you representing Kehati. Of course, you have seen the ups and downs and the conflicts that's being implicated, especially in the adoption and the adaptation of ESG factors. So my question for you is, do these conflicts actually hinder or would they accelerate a better economic transformation with these ESG adaptations?
I think I'd like to respond from the perspective of our ESG activities in financial market, perhaps in capital markets. Of course, ESG is always, it depends how you look at it. Is it the cost for you or is it investment? a cost or investment. If you think it as a cost, this will burden your business, right? If you think that's investment and you expect some return in the future. So it's really about the perspective, short-term versus long-term, number one. But number two is also about the environment where you are, running your business. This is also very important. Sometimes, we are from the environmental organization. Some of my friends is sometimes, take it very easy. For the businessman or woman, that's not that simple. So I think one is the most important thing. I think you have a question about incentive and disincentive before. So I think I will use more proper word. This is to level the playing field. So a lot of time, that people talking, from a bit negative perspective. This sustainable type of business always need incentives. Like kind of like we need some help from other people. No, what they need is actually to level the playing field to make sure that the business that is not sustainable pay for the negative externalities that they create to environment, to the society. And that's level playing field. So I think, so back to your question, when people has to be faced with the ESG adoption, I will call it's more like the learning process basically. So everybody learn from it. Maybe there is some objection, some negativity response. At the end of the day, from my observation in capital market, for example, and stock market, this is part of the learning process. Like you said, this is ups and downs, and eventually we learn from it and we embrace more sustainability. So ups and downs, but it's in the right direction, toward the sustainability future. So I'm a bit, on the optimistic side of it now.
Thank you very much, Bapak Riki. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give them a big round of applause. What an incredibly insightful session that we're all having. What an illuminating thematic discussion. And ladies and gentlemen, if I have to wrap up a little bit on what our speakers have delivered, is truly that I'm going to quote Albert Einstein in saying that this incredible quote that says, "Evil things are not done by those who do nothing, but those that witness it being done, and then they do nothing about it." And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to sincerely thank our speakers for highlighting the power of togetherness as well as integration and collaboration. And as we know, ladies and gentlemen, a dream that we dream alone is merely a dream, but a dream that we dream together, it becomes a mission, it becomes a blueprint, and that it becomes reality. And that's exactly what ESG is all about. ESG is undoubtedly translating what we put into theory and creating it into action. So that is what today's all about. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let us give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, next I'd like to invite Ibu Arliana untuk naik ke atas panggung to hand out the tokens of appreciations to our speakers. Let's give her a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, Ibu Arliana Abu Bakar will hand out the token of appreciation to our speakers. To Mr. Miozin, to Ibu Hana, Ibu Neti, as well as Bapak Riki. What an incredibly successful session on creating green investment opportunities and potential in Jakarta. Thank you, Ibu Arliana, for handing out the tokens of appreciation to Mr. Miozin, hailing from the British International Investment. And next, let us capture this moment with a group photo together. Kami persilakan kepada teman-teman fotografer untuk mengabadikan momen ini. Ladies and gentlemen, may future collaborations continue to be fruitful, successful, and everlasting. And remember, where there is good purpose, there will be good profit. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, let us give them a big round of applause. Terima kasih Ibu, terima kasih Bapak. Thank you very much for the illuminating session. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen, the third thematic discussion of the Jakarta Investment Forum.